Hello, my name is John D. Carter. I am 48 years old. I am a former U.S. Army officer and also the owner of a small private security company. I live in a peaceful suburban town in Virginia, where the streets are lined with oak trees and the air always carries the faint scent of freshly cut grass. For 25 years in the military, I used to think the battlefield was the only place that tested my courage. But life, it turns out, has battles far more grueling, right within the very home I thought I had found after all those years. I returned to civilian life 3 years ago, after retiring from the military. The small house that my wife Carla and I bought through the VA loan program sits nestled at the end of the street, with a white picket fence and a garden that Carla meticulously tends. Carla, 46, still retains the charm of the day we first met. Her radiant smile, sharp eyes, and the grace in every word she speaks. I've always considered myself lucky to have her by my side, especially after those long months on the battlefield, where the dream of a home was the only thing keeping me sane. Our daughter, Anna, 24, is my greatest pride. She's intelligent, strong, pursuing a graduate degree in psychology, and recently married Nathan Pierce, a 32-year-old lawyer whom I once believed was exemplary, talented, ambitious, and seemingly devoted to her. Watching Anna in her wedding dress, I thought to myself, finally, everything is falling into place. I've fulfilled my duties as a father and a husband. Life seemed to be smiling at me. The security company was securing steady contracts. The savings account was growing, and every evening I'd sit on the porch sipping coffee, watching the sunset, feeling like every sacrifice I'd made was worth it. But then I started noticing small cracks in that perfect picture. Carla, my vibrant and affectionate wife, began to grow distant. She was often busy citing yoga classes or meeting friends, but she never shared details. Once I asked, "Where were you all afternoon?" She just smiled and brushed it off, saying, "Oh, just women's stuff." I nodded, not wanting to make a big deal out of it, but a sense of unease began to settle in, like standing before a battlefield without knowing where the enemy was hiding. I tried to dismiss the thought. Maybe I was being overly sensitive. Maybe 25 years in the military had conditioned me to view everything through a lens of suspicion. I told myself, "John, you have a home, a family. Don't ruin it." But deep down, I knew something was wrong. And I, a soldier who had faced bullets and bombs, never imagined that my greatest battle would not be fought on a battlefield, but within the very home I had built. I'm not the kind of person who overthinks or worries needlessly, but for some reason that feeling of unease clung to me like a night sentry hearing an odd noise in the dark. My years in the military taught me one thing: intuition rarely lies. It's like an old radar buzzing whenever something's off. And this time it was buzzing louder than ever. It was a beautiful Saturday, the Virginia sky a deep, cloudless blue. I had just returned early from a business trip in Texas. The job, a security contract for a small conference in Dallas, wrapped up faster than expected, and I decided to fly back immediately instead of staying through the weekend as planned. The thought of relaxing with Carla brought a sense of relief. But instead of heading straight home, I got the idea to visit Anna, my daughter. She lived about 20 minutes away in a new neighborhood with modern houses and neatly trimmed trees. I figured a small surprise would make her happy, especially since I was bringing her favorite strawberry cheesecake from a Dallas bakery. I drove my old Ford F-150, the radio playing soft country music, my mind drifting to the old days when Anna was little, riding on my shoulders during park picnics. Life was simpler back then. Carla would hold my hand, laughing loudly as Anna tried to sing along to children's songs. But now, every time I thought of Carla, I felt a strange emptiness. She was still there, still making breakfast, still asking about my work, but something was missing. It was as if she was being forced to play a role she didn't want. I quickly pushed the negative thoughts aside and focused on the happy moment ahead. But as I turned onto the street leading to Anna's house, I noticed something odd. Carla's white SUV was parked right in front of her house. My heart gave a slight jolt. Normally on a Saturday morning, Carla would be at yoga or at the very least shopping with friends. She'd always said, Saturdays are for self-care. So why was her car here? I told myself she was probably visiting Anna just like me. After all, Anna was our daughter. It wasn't strange for a mother to want to see her child. But that radar in my head buzzed again, stronger than ever. I parked a few houses down, not wanting to make a scene. Holding the cheesecake box, I stepped out, sunlight filtering through the leaves, casting patches of light and shadow on the sidewalk. I walked toward Anna's house, a 2-story home with large glass doors and a meticulously kept front yard. As I got closer, I noticed the front door was slightly ajar, and voices drifted out from inside. I stopped, some instinct telling me not to knock right away. Maybe it was the soldier in me. Always assess the situation before entering uncertain territory. I moved quietly to the side of the house where a large window overlooked the living room. The grass crunched under my feet, and I crouched low to avoid being seen. I wasn't proud of sneaking around like this, but something in the air told me I needed to. Through the thin curtains, I saw Carla and Nathan, my son-in-law, standing close together. Too close. Carla was wearing a thin sweater, her hair loose, and Nathan stood right beside her, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. My heart stopped. I tried to tell myself they were just having a friendly conversation like a mother-in-law and son-in-law might. But then I heard Carla's voice, low and sharp, not the gentle tone I knew so well. "We have to move quickly, Nathan," she said, almost whispering. "If this drags on, John will get suspicious. He's not stupid." Nathan let out a soft laugh, a sound that gave me chills. "Don't worry, Carla. Everything's on track. As long as Anna believes her dad's got issues, we'll have the perfect excuse." My blood ran hot, pounding in my head. What the hell was going on? My wife and my son-in-law were talking about me, in a way that was secretive and calculating. I forced myself to stay still, breathing slowly to keep calm. 25 years in the military had taught me that losing control is the fastest path to failure. I pulled out my phone, switched on the voice recorder, and held it near the window. I needed to know exactly what they were plotting. "PTSD is the perfect excuse," Nathan continued, his voice smooth like a lawyer arguing in court. "We'll say John's showing signs of losing control, violent behavior. Anna's a psychology expert. She'll be easy to convince if we play it carefully. Once she's on our side, it won't be hard to get a restraining order from the court." Carla nodded, her eyes cold and unwavering. "And the assets? The house, the VA account, the security company? How much will we get?" Nathan smirked, the smile of someone who knew they held the upper hand. "Almost everything. The VA account and veteran benefits will be transferred to your name on the grounds that John's no longer fit to manage them. The security company. I've already got a buyer lined up with a good offer. You just need to sign a few papers and it's done." I felt the ground beneath me crumble. Carla, the woman I'd loved for 20 years, who held my hand through the darkest days, was conspiring with my son-in-law to take everything I'd built. And Anna, my daughter, they planned to use her against me. I wanted to barge in, punch Nathan in the face, scream at Carla, and demand to know why. But I didn't. I was a soldier, and a soldier doesn't act on emotion. I kept recording each word they spoke like a knife twisting in my chest. They discussed the details, how to fabricate my violent behavior, how to convince Anna I had post-traumatic stress disorder, how to make the court believe I was a danger. Carla even suggested adding fake details like how I smashed furniture or yelled at her in the middle of the night. I listened, unable to believe my ears. Who was this woman? This wasn't the Carla I knew. When they started talking about splitting the money after the divorce, I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped back, my footsteps heavy on the grass, the cheesecake box still clutched tightly in my hand. I returned to my truck, opened the door, and slid into the driver's seat. I didn't start the engine right away. I just sat there, staring at the steering wheel, trying to piece everything together in my mind. I didn't know what to do next, but one thing was certain. I wouldn't let them win. Not for the money, not for the house or the company, but for Anna. My daughter didn't deserve to be dragged into this filthy scheme. And I, John D. Carter, a soldier who survived war, would not let these betrayers destroy my family. I didn't drive home. Instead, I headed to my security company's office in Fairfax. It was Saturday, so no one was working. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, placed the cheesecake I'd meant for Anna on the coffee table, and sank into the nearby sofa, staring at the family photos hanging on the wall. I felt trapped in a nightmare. Those pictures, Carla and me on our wedding day, little Anna in her Halloween costume, the three of us beaming during a beach trip, now looked like carefully framed lies. I wondered, when did Carla change? Or was she never the woman I thought she was? And Nathan, the slick lawyer with his confident smile, how could I have been so blind as to let him into Anna's life? I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. It felt like I was standing before a new battlefield, but this time, the enemy wasn't carrying guns. They were in my own family, and I knew this battle wouldn't be easy. But I'd faced death before, walked the line between life and death. If Carla and Nathan thought they could take me down easily, they were gravely mistaken. I stood up and walked to the desk in the corner. My old laptop became my first ally in this fight. I opened the audio file from my phone, replaying every word Carla and Nathan had said. Each sentence was like a stab, but I forced myself to listen, to memorize. This wasn't just evidence. It was a weapon. I transferred the file to a USB drive and locked it in the small safe. I started digging. The past 6 months, the time when Carla began growing distant, were my starting point. I reviewed bills, bank statements, and any documents tied to our family finances. Sitting in the small office, surrounded by papers and the faint smell of coffee, I found the first traces of betrayal. There were regular withdrawals from our joint account, transferred to an unfamiliar account I'd never seen before. The amounts weren't large, a few $100s each time, but consistent like clockwork. I traced them and discovered the receiving account was in Nathan Pierce's name. My heart pounded, not out of anger, but from the cold confirmation. They were indeed plotting. I called the bank requesting detailed statements. The employee, a young woman with a gentle voice, asked if I needed further assistance. I wanted to scream that my wife and son-in-law were trying to steal everything I had, but I just thanked her and hung up. I couldn't let emotions take over. I needed to keep a clear head, like when I was a major leading my unit through minefields. When I was done, I drove home. Carla wasn't back yet. I went to the kitchen and brewed a cup of coffee to stay sharp. About an hour later, the front door opened. It was Carla. She walked in, hair tied up, wearing workout clothes as if she'd just come from yoga. Her smile was still perfect, but now I knew the truth behind that fake grin. "You're back early," she said, her voice light but with a hint of tension in her eyes. "Work go okay?" "Fine," I replied evenly, deliberately avoiding her gaze. "Just wanted to come home early, spend some time with you." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "That's great. I'm going to shower. It's been a long day." She hurried upstairs and I heard the bathroom door close. From that day on, the atmosphere in the house grew heavy, like the sky before a storm. Carla still played the part of the dutiful wife, cooking dinner, asking about the company. But whenever I brought up small details like a restaurant receipt or where she'd been all day, she deflected. "Oh, you're always fussing over little things," she'd say, laughing loudly. But I noticed her hand tremble slightly as she poured water. I didn't respond, just nodded, but in my mind a plan was taking shape. I started losing sleep. Lying next to Carla, listening to her steady breathing, I felt like I was sleeping beside a cunning fox. I thought about Anna, about how Nathan planned to use her psychology expertise against me. That thought hurt more than Carla's betrayal. Anna was everything to me, and I wouldn't let them drag her into this mess. I needed to act, but carefully. I needed evidence, allies, a strategy. But above all, I wanted to protect Anna and spare her the shock of this harsh truth. The next morning, I woke up at dawn as the first rays of light slipped through the curtains. Carla was still asleep, and I quietly left the house, driving to a small cafe on the outskirts of town. The place was quiet, with only a few early customers and the warm aroma of freshly baked bread. I sat in a secluded corner, ordered a black coffee, and texted Mike Herrera, an old friend from my military days, now a private investigator. Mike was a former intelligence officer, the kind of guy who could find a needle in a haystack. If anyone could help me expose Carla and Nathan, it was him. Mike arrived 20 minutes later, his calm demeanor unchanged since our time in Iraq. Tall, with salt and pepper hair and piercing eyes that seemed to see through any lie, he sat down across from me. "John, you look like you've been run over by a truck," he said. I told Mike everything, from the day I overheard Carla and Nathan to the recording to the suspicious bank transfers. He listened without interrupting, nodding and jotting notes in a small notebook. When I played the recording for him, his face darkened. "You did the right thing not acting rashly," he said. "This isn't something you can solve with fists. We need to play their game, but smarter." Mike agreed to investigate Carla and Nathan. He asked for all the information I had: account numbers, receipts, Carla's schedule over the past few months. "Leave the rest to me," he said. "But John, you have to stay calm. If they realize you're onto them, they'll change their plan and you'll lose the upper hand." I nodded, but deep down I knew staying calm would be the hardest part. Every time I looked at Carla, I saw her standing next to Nathan, plotting to take everything from me. But Mike was right. I needed time, and I needed more evidence. Next, I contacted a military law attorney who specialized in veterans' rights. His name was Tom Bradley, a middle-aged man with a deep voice and a firm handshake. I met him at his office in Richmond, bringing all the documents related to the VA account, pension benefits, and the security company. I laid out Carla and Nathan's scheme without holding back. Tom listened, took notes, and finally said, "John, you're lucky you caught this early. If they succeed in framing you for PTSD, you could lose control of your assets and even be restricted from seeing your daughter." Tom guided me on how to protect my assets, from freezing joint accounts to changing access to the company. He also referred me to a military accountant, Natalie Klein, who helped me review the company's finances. Natalie uncovered something chilling. Nathan had tried to access some of the company's accounts through a fake law firm. He'd sent emails from an unfamiliar address posing as a partner, requesting transfers for legal services. Fortunately, my bookkeeper had grown suspicious and hadn't processed the transactions. With Natalie's help, I began building a defensive wall. I froze all joint accounts with Carla, changed the passwords for the company's systems, and instructed the bank to monitor any unusual transactions. I also contacted the VA to temporarily lock my benefits account, citing personal security concerns. Every move was calculated like planning a military operation. I knew Carla and Nathan would soon notice, and I wanted them to panic. A panicked enemy is a careless one. In the meantime, I kept things normal around Carla. I ate breakfast with her, asked about her day, but every word I said was measured. She began to sense a change in me. Not anger, but a cold silence. One evening, while I was reading the paper, she asked, "John, are you okay? You've been different lately." I looked into her eyes and gave a faint smile. "Just tired, honey. Work's been a lot." She nodded, but I saw the worry in her eyes. She knew I was watching. Meanwhile, Mike worked tirelessly. A week later, he sent me an email with the subject, "Got what you need." He dug into Nathan's financial records and discovered the man was drowning in debt, over $60,000 from credit cards, lavish spending, and unpaid loans. Carla, it turned out, had transferred nearly $45,000 from our savings account to one in Nathan's name. But what stunned me most was Mike's discovery about Nathan's professional activities. He'd represented several small construction companies, but instead of passing client payments to suppliers, he'd pocketed the money. 3 contractors confirmed Nathan owed them tens of thousands from a lawsuit 8 months prior. Their statements, combined with the bank records, were undeniable proof of his embezzlement. I held those documents in my hands, feeling like I was gripping a live grenade with the pin pulled. But I didn't rush. I didn't just want to take Nathan down. I wanted to ensure he and Carla could never hurt me or Anna again. I sent all the evidence to Mike, asking him to forward it to the State Bar Association with a letter requesting an ethics investigation into Nathan's conduct. If I was right, his law license would be at risk, and that would be a fatal blow. The days that followed were a strange mix of calm, like a soldier waiting for the right moment to strike, and torment, torn apart by pain and anger. Each morning I woke up early, brewed coffee, and sat at my desk reviewing my plan. I had frozen the accounts, secured the company, and filed a complaint against Nathan, but I knew the battle wasn't over. Carla and Nathan weren't the type to give up easily. They'd find a way to fight back, and I needed to be ready. But what weighed on me most wasn't the money or the assets. It was Anna. My daughter, with her bright eyes and warm smile, was caught between truth and lies. I couldn't bear the thought of Nathan and Carla manipulating her, using her own psychology expertise to make her doubt me. I wanted to protect Anna, but I also knew that if I revealed the truth too soon, she might not believe me. Anna loved her mother, and as much as it pained me to admit, she loved Nathan too. I needed time to gather more evidence, and more importantly, I needed Anna to see the truth for herself. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. Anna's name flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, keeping my tone as gentle as always. "What's up?" "Dad." Anna's voice came through, trembling slightly as if she were holding something back. "Can we meet? I need to talk." My heart pounded. I knew this moment would come, but I didn't expect it so soon. "Of course," I replied. "Where do you want to meet?" "At the cafe near my school, okay? The one where you always get me cheesecake." Her voice grew quieter, as if she were trying to hide her anxiety. "Sure, I'll be there in an hour." "Okay, thanks, Dad." Anna hung up, and I stood there, staring at my phone. Something in her voice unsettled me. Not anger, but confusion, like she was caught in a storm and didn't know which way to run. I drove to the cafe, a cozy spot with red brick walls and the faint smell of baked goods. Anna was already there, seated at a corner table, a latte untouched in front of her. She wore a green sweater, her hair tied up, but her eyes looked exhausted, as if she hadn't slept all night. When I walked in, she looked up and gave a weak smile. "Dad," she said, standing to hug me. The hug was tighter than usual, like she was searching for an anchor. "You okay?" I asked, sitting across from her. I kept my voice even, but inside I was piecing things together. Why had Anna called me here? Had Carla and Nathan already started spreading their lies? Anna stared at her coffee, her fingers fidgeting with the spoon. "Dad, I don't know where to start," she said hesitantly. "Mom said some things about you, and I'm not sure who to believe." My heart clenched. I'd braced myself for this moment, but hearing it from my own daughter felt like a punch. "What did Mom say?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Anna sighed, looking out the window. "She said you've been unstable, that you're controlling, that maybe you're being affected by your years in the military. She said you've been acting strange, like getting irritable or not sleeping." She paused, looking directly at me. "Dad, is it true? Are you struggling with something?" My blood boiled, but I held it in. This was Carla and Nathan's plan, planting doubts in Anna's mind, painting me as an unstable father, a veteran with PTSD. I wanted to scream, to tell her everything, but I knew if I did, Anna might not believe me. She loved her mother, and love can blind you to the truth. I had to be careful. "Anna," I said, looking into her eyes, "I'm fine. I'm not out of control, and I don't have PTSD. I'm still your dad, the one who taught you to ride a bike, who listened to you talk about your dreams. If Mom says I'm struggling, have you seen me act strange?" Anna shook her head, but her eyes were still full of doubt. "I don't know, Dad." Mom sounded so convincing. And Nathan, he said something about you maybe being stressed, that I should keep an eye on you. He even asked if you might have post-traumatic stress disorder since I study psychology. Hearing Nathan's name, I clenched my fists under the table. He was clever, using Anna's own knowledge to make her question me. "And what do you think?" I asked, keeping my voice gentle. Anna bit her lip, her eyes welling up. "I don't know, Dad. I just feel like everything's falling apart. Mom's stressed, Nathan's busy, and you're so quiet. I don't know who's telling the truth." Her words cut like a knife. I wanted to hug her, to tell her that her mother and husband were lying, that they were plotting to take everything from me. But I didn't. I knew if I attacked Carla and Nathan now, Anna might turn away from me. She needed to discover the truth herself. "Anna," I said, placing my hand on hers, "I just want you to know one thing. The truth always wins. No matter what happens, I'll always be here and I'll never lie to you." Anna nodded, but I saw the confusion in her eyes. She stood, hugged me again, and left with a promise to call later. As her figure disappeared through the cafe door, I sat back staring at my cold coffee. I felt helpless, but at the same time my resolve grew stronger. I wouldn't let Carla and Nathan drag Anna into their dirty game. Back at home, Carla continued playing the perfect wife, but I noticed the small signs, how she constantly checked her phone, how she avoided my eyes during conversations. One night, when she thought I was asleep, I overheard her whispering on the phone in the living room. "Nathan, we need to be more careful," she said. "I think John's getting suspicious." I lay in bed listening to her every word, feeling like my heart was being crushed. But I didn't let emotions take over. I'd already filed the complaint against Nathan, and Mike was working tirelessly. I just needed to hold my ground and wait for the right moment, and that moment I knew would come soon. The following days, I lived like a soldier awaiting the order to strike. Every step, every word was calculated, as if I were walking through a minefield. Then one bright morning, I received a text from Carla. "John, my credit card was declined at a restaurant. What's going on?" I read the message, picturing her panicked face as the waiter handed back her card. I replied curtly, "Probably a bank error. I'll check on it." But I knew she wouldn't let it go. Carla was smart, and she'd soon realize what I was doing. As expected, that evening, Carla came home with a tense expression. She walked into the kitchen where I was sitting with a cup of coffee. "John," she said, her voice trembling, "what's going on with the accounts? I can't withdraw money, can't pay for anything. What did you do?" I looked at her, keeping my face impassive. "Just a security issue, Carla. I'm reviewing everything to make sure it's safe." I saw a flicker of suspicion in her eyes, but she didn't press further. She turned away, muttering something about calling the bank, and I knew she'd contact Nathan right after. Sure enough, the next morning, Mike called me. "John, they're panicking. I got word from a source in Nathan's law office. He was denied a transaction because the account linked to Carla is frozen. More importantly, the State Bar Association just notified him about an ethics investigation. He's losing it." I smiled for the first time in days. Good. Let him dig his own grave. Mike kept me updated. Some of Nathan's former clients were pulling their contracts after rumors of his ethical issues spread. One contractor publicly complained on a construction industry forum, and from there, Nathan's reputation began crumbling like a house with its foundation yanked out. I imagined his face, that smug smile gone, replaced by the panic of a man in free fall. But I wasn't satisfied yet. I wanted Anna to know the truth. I didn't want her trapped in Carla and Nathan's web of lies. The pivotal moment came one afternoon when Anna unexpectedly showed up at my security company's office. I was reviewing a new contract when I heard a knock. Anna stepped in wearing a long coat, her face pale but her eyes resolute. "Dad," she said, closing the door behind her. "I need to talk. I can't take it anymore." I stood, pulling a chair for her. "Sit down, sweetheart. What's wrong?" Anna sat, her hands clasped tightly. "Mom and Nathan, They're trying to make me think you're crazy. Mom says you're controlling, that you're having psychological issues. Nathan keeps asking me about PTSD symptoms like I'm your doctor or something. But I noticed something. They never give specific examples. It's all vague, like they're trying to build a story. I listened, my heart pounding. Anna was starting to see the truth, but I knew it still hurt her. "And what do you think?" I asked gently. Anna looked at me, her eyes brimming with tears. "I don't know who to trust, Dad, but I know one thing. You've never lied to me. I want to hear it from you. Everything." I took a deep breath, knowing this was the decisive moment. I didn't want Anna to hurt more, but she needed the truth. I pulled out my phone and opened the recording from the day I overheard Carla and Nathan. "Anna," I said, "I want you to listen to this, but I'm warning you, it's going to hurt." I hit play, and Carla and Nathan's voices filled the room, cold and ruthless. Anna sat still, her hands gripping the chair, her face shifting from confusion to shock, then to raw pain as she heard her mother and husband plotting to ruin me. When the recording ended, she said nothing, just sat there, tears streaming down her cheeks. I saw her shoulders tremble, and I wanted to hold her, to erase her pain, but I knew she needed time to process. "Anna," I said softly, "I'm sorry you had to hear this, but I couldn't let them keep manipulating you." Anna wiped her tears, her voice shaky. "Why, Dad? Why would Mom do this? And Nathan? I trusted him. I married him." I took her hand, trying to give her some strength. "I don't know why, sweetheart. Maybe greed, maybe something deeper. But I promise I won't let them hurt you anymore. We'll get through this together." Anna nodded, her eyes gradually hardening with resolve. "I want to help you," she said. "I want them to pay." I smiled, feeling like I'd found my daughter again. "All right, Anna, we'll do this. But we have to be smart, careful." In the days that followed, Anna and I planned meticulously. I shared all the evidence Mike had gathered, from bank statements to the contractors' testimonies. Anna, with her psychology background, suggested ways to make Carla and Nathan expose themselves. "They think I'm still on their side," she said. "I'll pretend to go along with them, gather more information. You keep doing what you're doing." I agreed, though I hated the idea of Anna diving deeper into this mess, but I knew she was strong, and I trusted her. We divided tasks. Anna would monitor Carla and Nathan, noting any unusual actions or words, while I worked with Mike to strengthen our case. Each night I sat in my office, reviewing documents, replaying the recording, feeling like I was preparing for a final battle. Carla and Nathan didn't know they were surrounded, and I wouldn't stop until the truth was fully exposed. The days that followed passed like a silent storm. Anna and I worked as a team, each playing a role in the plan I'd devised since uncovering the betrayal. Anna, with her intelligence and keen insight as a psychology student, became my eyes and ears when I couldn't be present. She played the part of a confused daughter, still trusting her mother and husband to keep Carla and Nathan off guard. Meanwhile, I collaborated with Mike and my lawyer, Tom Bradley, to ensure every piece of evidence was meticulously prepared, leaving no loopholes for them to slip through. As expected, Carla and Nathan didn't sit idle. One morning, I received a court notice. Carla had filed for divorce, along with a request for an emergency restraining order, claiming I was mentally unstable and had engaged in financial manipulation. Nathan was behind the filing. I could tell from the sharp, legalistic wording. They accused me of having PTSD, alleging I'd frozen accounts to punish Carla and that I was a danger to the family. Reading those words, I felt a mix of anger and amusement. Did they really think I'd crumble under their carefully crafted lies? I called Tom immediately. "They've made their move," I said, my voice calm but icy. "We need to prepare." Tom, with years of experience handling cases involving veterans, chuckled softly over the phone. "John, they picked the wrong opponent. You have all the evidence we need. We'll turn this trial into their nightmare." I spent that day in Tom's office, going over everything. The recording from Anna's house, bank statements showing suspicious transfers, testimonies from 3 contractors about Nathan's embezzlement, and a statement from an old friend of Carla's confirming her illicit relationship with Nathan. Tom nodded in approval as he reviewed the file. "This isn't just a divorce case, John," he said. "This is a case of financial fraud and abuse of trust. The court won't let this slide easily." Meanwhile, Anna continued her role. She called me one evening, her voice low but resolute. "Dad, Mom met with me. She tried to convince me to testify, saying you yelled in her face and threatened her." I pretended to agree, but I recorded the whole conversation. I smiled, a mix of pride and pain washing over me. Anna, the little girl who once rode on my shoulders during picnics, was now fighting alongside me like a true soldier. "Be careful," I said. "Don't let Mom or Nathan suspect anything." "I know, Dad," Anna replied, "but I can't stand the thought of them trying to hurt you. I want them to pay." The day of the trial arrived sooner than I expected. That morning, the Virginia sky was overcast, as if nature itself was bracing for a battle. I wore my navy blue suit, the one I reserved for significant occasions, and stood before the mirror telling myself, "John, this is the final battle. You survived war. You'll survive this." The courthouse, located in downtown Richmond, was an old stone building with long corridors echoing with footsteps. As I entered the courtroom, I saw Carla sitting on the other side, wearing a simple green dress, her face lightly made up to look like a victim. Nathan sat beside her in an expensive suit, but I noticed the tension in how he kept adjusting his tie. Anna wasn't present. She'd agreed to be a neutral witness and was waiting in a nearby room, preparing for her moment. The judge, a middle-aged man with silver hair and sharp eyes, opened the session. Carla's lawyer, a young woman with a piercing voice, began her case. She portrayed me as a PTSD-afflicted veteran, an out-of-control father and husband who'd frozen accounts to punish his wife. She even presented a fabricated psychological report claiming I had violent tendencies. I sat there, listening to every word, feeling like I was watching a poorly staged play. Carla bowed her head, wiping away tears, but I knew it was all an act. When it was Tom's turn, he stood, his voice deep and commanding. "Your Honor," he began, "these allegations are not only false but part of a meticulously orchestrated scheme to defraud my client, Major John D. Carter, a veteran who served this country for 25 years. Tom presented the evidence with precision, like a commander on the battlefield. He played the recording of Carla and Nathan's conversation, silencing the courtroom. Their voices, cold and ruthless, discussed framing me for PTSD and seizing my assets. I glanced at Carla. Her face paled, her hands gripping the chair. Nathan kept his head down, avoiding everyone's gaze. Tom continued, presenting bank statements showing transfers from our joint account to Nathan's. He submitted the contractors' testimonies confirming Nathan's embezzlement. And finally, he called Anna as a witness. Anna entered the courtroom, her demeanor calm but her eyes resolute. She stood before the judge, looking directly at him. "I'm Anna Carter, daughter of John Carter and a graduate student in psychology. I can confirm that my father shows no signs of PTSD or erratic behavior. These accusations are false, and I have evidence to prove it." Anna played the recording of her conversation with Carla, in which her mother tried to convince her to testify against me. Carla's manipulative voice filled the room, causing a stir among those present. I looked at Carla, and for the first time I saw genuine panic in her eyes. Nathan seemed to shrink in his seat. The judge called for a recess to review the evidence. In the waiting room, Anna took my hand and whispered, "Dad, I'm sorry for doubting you." "You don't need to apologize," I said, squeezing her hand. "You did the right thing, and I'm proud of you." When the trial resumed, the judge delivered his ruling. He completely dismissed Carla's accusations, denied the restraining order, and referred the case to the prosecutor's office for investigation into Carla and Nathan's financial fraud and perjury. I sat there, feeling like I'd just emerged from a long battle, victory in hand. But as I looked at Carla, I felt no joy, only a deep sadness. The woman I'd once loved, who'd shared my joys and pains, was now just a shadow of the past. Nathan left the courtroom looking dazed, knowing his career was over. As I stepped out of the courthouse, sunlight broke through the gray clouds as if the sky itself were celebrating my victory. Anna walked beside me, holding my hand. "We did it, Dad," she said. "It's just the beginning, sweetheart," I replied, smiling. "But we're on the right path." Leaving the courthouse felt like stepping off a battlefield. The smoke cleared, but the wounds still raw. I held Anna's hand, feeling the warmth of her grip. And for the first time in months, I saw a genuine spark of hope. But I knew the courtroom victory was just the first step. Carla and Nathan had lost the legal battle, but the consequences of their actions would linger, not just for them, but for Anna and me. In the weeks following the trial, things became clearer. The State Bar Association acted swiftly after receiving the court's file. Nathan was summoned to address his embezzlement of client trust funds. The contractors, with Mike's help, provided additional evidence: emails, contracts, and even text messages Nathan sent to delay payments. Within a month, the bar issued its ruling. Nathan's law license was permanently revoked. I heard the news from Mike during an early morning call as I sat on the porch watching the sunrise peek through the oak trees. "He's done, John," Mike said, his voice brimming with excitement. "Not only did he lose his license, but he's under criminal investigation. The DA's office is involved. He might be looking at jail time for financial fraud." I nodded, though Mike couldn't see. "Thanks, Mike. I owe you big time." "No debt here," he replied, "just helping a brother out." I hung up, gazing at the garden Carla once tended. The flower beds were now wilted, much like our marriage. I didn't feel joy thinking about Nathan's downfall, just an emptiness. He was someone I'd trusted, someone I thought would bring Anna happiness. But he chose the wrong path, and now he was paying the price. Carla, meanwhile, didn't escape the consequences either. The court denied all her claims in the divorce. The house, the VA account, the security company, all remained mine. Carla got nothing, as the judge ruled she had engaged in deliberate fraud and manipulation. I heard from a mutual friend that Carla had moved out of town, living in a small apartment on the outskirts and working part-time at a supermarket. Once the center of every party, surrounded by friends, she was now shunned by the community. Those who once admired her now whispered behind her back, calling her a traitor. I didn't see Carla again after the trial. Part of me wanted to confront her, to ask why she did it, but I knew it no longer mattered. She'd chosen her path, and there was no place for her in my life anymore. Anna, on the other hand, was the one light in those dark days. She decided to divorce Nathan immediately after the trial. I worried she'd break down, but Anna was stronger than I'd imagined. She hired her own lawyer, ensuring Nathan couldn't contest any assets, and swiftly finalized the divorce. One afternoon, she visited me at home, bringing a box of strawberry cheesecake, the same kind I used to buy her. "Dad," she said, sitting in the armchair in the living room, "I'm sorry for everything. I doubted you, let Mom and Nathan manipulate me." I shook my head, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're not to blame, Anna. You were a victim in this, just like me. What matters is that you chose the truth." Anna smiled, but I saw the sadness in her eyes. "I lost Mom and the man I thought was the love of my life. But I still have you." Her words tightened my chest. I hugged her, feeling like I was holding my entire world. "You'll always have me," I said. "I'll always be here no matter what." Anna decided to relocate to a city a few hours from Virginia. She opened her own psychology practice, specializing in therapy for those manipulated emotionally. A career she said was inspired by our story. I was proud of her, but deep down I felt a pang of pain knowing she had to grow up so fast because of what Carla and Nathan did. I continued running the security company, and business gradually got back on track. Veterans in the community, after hearing my story, started reaching out, not just for work but for moral support. One evening, an old comrade stopped by, bringing a bottle of beer and stories from our battlefield days. "John," he said, "you're a true soldier. You didn't just survive war, you survived betrayal." I laughed, raising my beer, just doing what needed to be done. But after he left, I sat alone on the porch watching the moonlight glint off the white picket fence. I thought about Carla, about Nathan, about the years I believed family was the safest place. I was wrong, but I'd also learned that the truth, however painful, is always the strongest force. I wrote a handwritten letter to Anna, thanking her for standing by me, for choosing truth over her mother's lies. I didn't send it right away, keeping it on my desk as a reminder that I still had a reason to keep fighting. The months following the trial passed in a new rhythm, calm but not empty. The house, once filled with the happy memories of me, Carla, and Anna, now echoed with quiet. I no longer heard Carla's soft singing in the kitchen or the evenings when our family gathered around the dinner table. But instead of letting that solitude consume me, I chose to rebuild my life, step by step, the way I had once built my military career. Each morning I woke before dawn, brewed a cup of black coffee, and sat on the porch watching the first rays of sunlight filter through the oak trees. The garden Carla once tended was now mine to nurture. I replanted the flower beds, not to erase the past, but to remind myself that life moves forward despite old wounds. The yellow daisies began to bloom, and I smiled, thinking Anna would love them. My security company started thriving like never before. After the trial, the veteran community in Virginia spread my story like a badge of honor. They called me the soldier who didn't fall, and new contracts poured in. Not just from local businesses, but from veteran organizations eager to support someone who'd fought for the truth. I hired more staff, expanded the office, and even launched a security training program for young veterans, helping them find purpose after leaving the service. Every time I saw those young men and women walk into the office with determined eyes, I saw myself from 25 years ago. Anna, meanwhile, found her footing in her new city. She called me every week, sharing stories about her psychology practice and the patients she helped. "Dad," she said during one call, her voice brimming with excitement, "today I helped a young woman break free from a toxic relationship. I think I'm doing something meaningful." I smiled, pride swelling in my chest. "You're doing something amazing, Anna. I always knew you were stronger than you realized." She laughed softly over the phone. "I learned that from you." Those calls were my greatest source of strength. Anna wasn't just my daughter. She was my comrade in arms, the one who stood by me when the world seemed to turn against us. The letter I'd written to her still sat on my desk, but one quiet evening I decided to send it. I added a few lines telling her I was proud not only because she chose the truth, but because she turned her pain into strength to help others. As I sealed the envelope, I felt a weight lift, like I'd shed a burden. One morning, while checking my emails, I received a message from Mike. He sent a local news article with the headline, "Local Lawyer Under Investigation for Financial Fraud." It mentioned Nathan, stating he was facing criminal charges and possible jail time. I skimmed it, feeling neither joy nor satisfaction. Nathan had destroyed himself, and I didn't need to do anything more. As for Carla, I heard she was still living quietly, working at the supermarket and avoiding old acquaintances. Part of me wanted to feel pity, but then I remembered her words in the recording, and that pity vanished. I stood up and walked outside, where the American flag flew high, flapping in the breeze. I looked at it, remembering my days in the military, the sleepless nights on the battlefield, the moments I thought I wouldn't survive to come home. But I did. And now I'd survived another battle, not with bullets and bombs, but with betrayal and lies. I was no longer angry. Instead, I felt at peace, proud, and whole. I went back inside, pulled out Anna's letter, and read it again. "Dad," she'd written in a recent message, "thank you for teaching me that the truth is always worth fighting for." I smiled, folded the letter, and tucked it into a drawer. My life was simpler now, but also fuller. I needed nothing more than knowing Anna was thriving, and that I, a soldier, had not failed.